Is up, good people? I pray that you guys are having a wonderful Saturday. Sorry for the delay. Usually I post these at around 9 a.m. But today was just a little bit setback. But we're here. So, what's really good, everybody? I'm your boy Eddie of Remnant Outreach Ministries, where our mission is to empower believers to become leaders. So, to impact and influence the world through the kingdom of God. If that's the type of stuff that you're into, then, like always, consider subscribing. And if you like this video, smash like, leave a comment below, share with your friends, all that good stuff as we get into it. Also, remember to turn on those notifications. So today is not really going to be a Bible study. It's going to be more of a guide. We're still talking about fasting on this month. It is the 18th day. Some of you guys are doing 21-day fast. Some of you guys have already fasted. Some of you guys might be watching this later in the year where you're going to fast. And so I wanted to give you a guide, so to speak, on what is the most prevalent fast that we find in the scriptures, and that fast is a water fast. Now, on last week I kind of described it a bit, and I said I was going to leave some little notes in the comments for people to kind of go through and scrub through the video on last week and find it. But I was like, you know what, it's a nice amount of information. I can go ahead and just share or make a video talking about that. So what is water fasting? Water fasting is basically going in this period of time without food and just drinking water, solely water. Some people do water and herbal teas. Usually when I water fast, that's what I do. It's basically, no food for 24-hour periods, or if you're doing a 6 to 6 fast, so you're not eating any food for that 12-hour period. You're just drinking water as you're fasting. But in today's video, I'm going to talk more so about 24-hour period fasting, and more so extended water fasting at that. A lot of this is going to apply if you're doing a 1 or 3 day fast, but this is going to be talking about if you're doing a 7-day fast or more. We're going to be talking about water fasting, how to do it, how to take care of yourself, and so forth, because a lot of people don't know. I know I was in church for years, and the only fast that we even did was a water fast. A 6 to 6 fast. Maybe sometimes we would do a Daniel fast. And in most churches, that's what I would see when you're doing when they're doing fasting, is a Daniel fast. But I don't really see many churches nowadays. I know back in the day they used to do it a lot, but I don't really see many churches nowadays talking about fasting. At least the complete water fast, and how that impacts and influences the body. So let's talk about fasting for a quick second. Just a little recap. Again, fasting is the willful abstaining from natural pleasures for a spiritual purpose. A person is renouncing the natural to invoke the spiritual, and it is during a time of dedication to prayer and spiritual activity without food. Again, fasting is a willful abstaining of natural pleasures for a spiritual purpose, because it is an act of a person's will. During that time, your body will fight you. Your body will say, no, we're not going to do this. But it is a willful abstaining from natural pleasures for a spiritual purpose, and during this time in which a person has a personal commitment to renounce the natural to invoke the spiritual, and it is a dedication of a period of time to devote yourselves to spiritual priority of prayer without food. So as we talked about on last week, we know that when you're fasting, that time that you spent with food, you can now spend, or you're now really supposed to spend in study of the word. We saw how in the scriptures how your schedule is supposed to adjust to now where those recreational activities that you were doing and doing a lot of, some of us, we now shift those activities over to a time of fasting and prayer and supplication unto the Lord. So a lot of questions that I get, is fasting dangerous, Eddie? It's dangerous to do a water fast, especially for days. You're not supposed to not eat. We're supposed to eat 3 meals a day, 3 whole meals per day. How are we going to do this? I don't know if you're outside and some sirens going. How are we going to do this without food? We can't do that. It's got to be dangerous. You'll die. That's the first. That's the first thing. The second thing is you're starving yourself, aren't you? God doesn't want you to starve yourself, and so forth and so on. And you deal with these. I believe they come out of fear because of our ignorance. Now, ignorance is not necessarily a bad thing. It just simply means you don't know. But we have to become a people in the body that know what these things are. Some other people, they'll say, I tried that water fasting, but I feel like the devil was trying to attack me. My stomach on the inside was attacking me. I felt all types of stuff going on in my stomachs and whatnot and so forth. So I just don't think it's supposed to be right. You ain't supposed to right. I think that was just for biblical times for fasting. I don't think we're supposed to be doing that now. Now, before I get into what I'm going to share, it's a good book that talks that's it's older, but it's really still good, and it's The Miracle of Fasting. See that right there, The Miracle of Fasting. This is a really good book that kind of talks about fasting and talks about what happens to the body, the process that happens to the body. It talks about, a 7-day fast, a 3-day fast, a 10-day fast, 21-day fast, even a 40-day fast. And these are the same people, the apple cider vinegar that says from the mother or of the mother. Those are the same people. But in that book, they kind of go through fasting and what it does and how it affects the body. So like I said, this is not really a Bible study per se, but this is kind of getting into that point. So water fasting, the first thing, like I said, ain't you gonna die? To be quite honest, people think that fasting in and of itself, going 24-hour periods without food, is not natural. However, when you look over human history, us eating in the way that we do today is not necessarily natural. We see that over the course of history, that when our bodies are designed to a point where we can go extended period of times without food. You see that in the olden times where they had to do a lot of hunting and gathering, there were many times where the food was not necessarily in abundance, so they had to go a period of time without eating until they caught something. Same thing is with fishermen and stuff like that. They had to go a period of time without eating until they were able to make a catch, and so forth and so on. We see in the Bible, like I said, this is the most prevalent fast in the Bible. When we look at fasting, because people say the Daniel fast, but when we look at Moses, Daniel wasn't there yet. We look at Esther, Daniel wasn't there yet. When we look at David and Samuel, Daniel wasn't there yet. Even when we look at Jesus, Jesus was fasting on water, not water and vegetables. When we see the apostles fasting in the book of Acts, they were fasting on water. They weren't fasting on vegetables. And even in the book of Daniel, although there were a couple of fasts, there were only a few fasts in which they fasted with no meats. I forget the word, but they used a specific word that talked about, meats and other like foods that were more, I would say, delicious. There were other times where you see in that book where they were fasting completely just on water. So this is a fast that's very possible for people to do. It is not unnatural. It is something that's very natural for our body because, one, it gives our body a time to rest itself. It gives our digestive system a time to rest and heal itself. We are steadily consuming food on a daily basis, and now we become become victims of that habit. So what happens those first couple of days, your body is not necessarily experiencing hunger pains, but they're experiencing pains of habit. And the fact of the matter is, we are addicted to that food. We are addicted to whatever we've been eating. So when you wake up in the morning and now you feel that rumbling in your tummy, your body is telling you it's breakfast time. But that is really your brain telling your stomach to produce gastric acids because you eat at a certain time every day and it's time for that food to come out. So generally during the first 2 or 3 days, or the first 2 days, you really just experience discomfort in your stomach when you have those times of when you usually eat. So, if you eat, 2 times a day, you get those two times a day. If you eat 3 or 4 times a day, you get those 3 or 4 times a day. If you eat 6 times a day, you're going to have a little bit of an issue because those 6 times a day you used to eating, your brain is going to tell your stomach to produce those acids, and it's going to feel a little discomfort. The second thing that you're going to notice during those first couple of days is, your breath is going to be, kicking like karate and whatnot because because you're not eating. A lot of people say it's because your stomach is tight. It's because your tongue is connected to your intestine, which is connected to your rectum, and so all of those toxins come out through your stomach. And I'm still doing a little research on that. It could be true. I'm still doing. Excuse me. I'm still doing my own research and whatnot. But when you're experiencing, going back to that previous point, last week I told you guys when you're doing the water fast, you have to drink a lot of water. And that's because when you're experiencing those stomach gastric irritations from the acids that are producing, the gastric acids that are producing, how do you dilute that acid? You dilute it with liquid. So you just drink that water whenever you feel like that. You drink the water, and what that does, it flushes out the acids out of your system, and it comes out usually after a few days. After you might have a couple of bowel movements, but you won't have a lot. But generally, it come out through your urine. And so about the 7th, the 8th day, 9th day, you'll start seeing your urine look a little interesting or whatever. But the water flushes itself out of your system. It flushes yourself out of your system. So you just have to keep pounding that water, or so forth and so on. Now, around the 3rd day, that is when those, at least for me, I'm talking about more so for me, and for other people that I've actually seen fasting, around that 3rd day and around the 3rd through the 6th day, that's when those irritations begin to get more intense. You don't really want to go around food during those times because it gets interesting. You're looking at everything like, oh my God, you're salivating. Because here's the thing, and even in this book, it talks about that. We are creatures of habit. We're basically junkies to food. We're addicted to food. So you're not really tasting the food that you eat. It is your memory telling your tongue what that food tastes like. So you don't really know what those things, especially if you have not fasted before, you don't really know what those things taste like. When you break an extended or long fast, you can eat an apple and eat that apple for about 30 minutes because it's so delicious. When you break a long fast, you can have a handful of grapes and just be sitting over there in heaven with those handful of grapes because this is the first time that you've really actually tasted those grapes. Your taste buds are reset to a point where it's like you have the taste buds of children, So going back to what I was saying, the 3rd through the 6th day, it gets a little bit interesting. You don't want to go around that food because, again, you can still remember what things taste like, and your mouth is sending signals to your tongue, salivate. Your brain is sending signals to your tongue to salivate. Your brain is sending signals to your stomach like, oh my goodness, we need that. We're about to get some food, baby. Go ahead and start producing those gastric acids. They're already producing in an overabundance because your brain now and your stomach is like, your brain is like telling your stomach to release those acids. Your stomach is saying like, there's nothing here. Your brain is saying release those acids. Your stomach is like, yo man, there's nothing down here, and it's still saying release it. It's releasing. What's happening at this time, you're feeling a lot of gastric discomfort throughout your entire intestine, because what's happening is now that gastric acids that generally just break down the food that you eat to absorb them into your stomach lining so they can be digested through your system, it now begins to burn away at the stomach lining and anything that might have been caked up in it. But not just that, it begins to go through your entire intestine. Now, a lot of people will say that's the devil. That's not the devil. That is not the devil. This is a natural thing. This is a natural thing. I want us to understand this also in the natural, so that when we have these experiences in fasting, we won't sit up here and wonder or be worried about what's going on with us. So, during those days, your stomach lining is burning through. It's burning through. But also what begins to happen during this time is something called ketosis, because your body is no longer taking in energy. Now, this is the other thing, because a lot of people will begin to say, "Eddie, man, aren't you tired? Won't you be feeling tired and you don't have energy?" During those after the second day, I will say your energy kind of goes like this. It goes on a little roller coaster for about until like the eighth, ninth, 10th day. It goes on a roller coaster depending on how long you're fasting. After around that 10th day, your energy starts to go on an incline. And once it starts to go on an incline, this is because ketosis takes place. And I have the definition right here. Ketosis is a metabolic process that occurs when the body begins to burn fat for energy because it does not have enough carbohydrates to burn. During this process, the liver produces chemicals called ketones. The ketogenic or keto diet aims to induce ketosis in order to burn more fat. However, when you're fasting, your body is not absorbing any carbohydrates at all, and therefore you begin to go into ketosis, and now your body is now looking for something to convert into energy. You don't have any carbohydrates, so it burns that fat. And let me tell you, once you get to around that 10th, 11th day, it begins to become a far more efficient type of energy transfer than it ever was. Even when you were eating the food, you begin to have more energy than you did when you were when you're fasting than you did when you were eating food. Like, you compare the 14th day of your fast to the 14th day of you actually eating food. And the 14th day of your fast, you feel more rejuvenated, more alive, more full of energy. The 14th day of eating food, you might have that energy if you work out, if you're active and all that stuff. But with the 14th day of fasting, it don't even matter. You feel that energy. You feel that your body is like, man, I can go. Those first second to the 10th day, you gonna have your ups. It's gonna be like, I feel good. Then you go out and do something, you be like, nah, I need a nap. Let me go over here. Yeah, it happens. That's what happens. But you also have to be very careful of a couple of things while doing fasting as well. Number one, you have to make sure that your mental state is in order. So you don't want to fast during a real traumatic time to your. You can, if you can compartmentalize in a proper way with your mental state or whatnot, and how you process things. Because it can affect your body, because we all know that your mind can affect your body. The second thing is, you don't want to fast, like, let's say if there's a injury that's going on with you, or something serious that's going on with you, because that would disrupt the body's flow, and now you're not eating, so now your body is like, it's already compensating, it's already pulling from things that it's not supposed to be pulling from, so you're like, oh my God, I can't, and it kind of gets interesting. I know both of those for a fact, because I've done both of those, and yeah, they weren't they weren't the best. I'm telling you, no, they weren't the best. So I'm just trying to help you avoid certain pitfalls that I've had. Anywho, so we're going back to the process again. Again, as you're fasting, you're not eating. And like I said, around that 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th day, your appetite begins to dissipate, because the gastric acids are not not producing those I'm sorry, your brain is not telling your stomach to produce those gastric acids anymore, unless you're kind of aggravating you. You're going around everywhere with food. You're just sitting over there like, oh, that looks good, oh, that looks good, and you're telling your mind that, then it'll start to kick back up. But if you're not doing stuff like that, then your brain is not really is not telling your stomach to produce those things anymore. And so yeah, from about the 14th, the longest I fasted is 25 days, but I've heard from like the 14th to around the 28th day, your energy increases, and it stays on that incline. A lot of people look at fasting as the spooky thing. Again, they look at it as something, you're going to kill yourself or you're starving yourself. Again, our bodies are designed to go periods of time without eating, and the reason our bodies can handle that is because during the fast, our body uses whatever is in our body to convert it into energy. The initial thing is the fat. The other things are things that are not beneficial for the function of this body. I've heard things where there have been people that have gone on 40-day fast that had tumors in their body, and the tumor dried up. I've heard things about people that had scar tissue in different parts of their body, and they fasted for like 30 days, 40 days, and the scar tissue was gone. I've heard things about all these different types of things where your body absorbs and consumes those things that are not beneficial to itself and are not needed or necessities for its function. Now, we only see in the Bible that water fasting is done up to 40 days. So it is my belief that, we shouldn't fast past that 40 days if we're doing any water fasting. You don't see in the Bible any examples of fasting past that 40 days. Because we know if you go too long, then your body will begin to start consuming its muscle and consuming the sinews. And that's what starvation is. Fasting itself is not starvation. When your body begins to consume itself, its muscle and stuff like that, that's starvation. That is dangerous. Fasting is not dangerous. There are also many centers that are popping up throughout the country that are dedicating themselves to times of fasting. And again, this is just talking about the natural, man. We're just talking about the natural aspect of fasting in and of itself. Now, fasting, obviously, it promotes weight loss. It improves the body composition and fitness. You feel better, you look better. And you lose a lot of the excess weight that you had if you go throughout a lengthy fast. It promotes satiety, which means your mental clarity, your state of mind, your mental state of being. I'm telling you, you get really mentally clear when you fast. It boosts your metabolism. So the metabolism that you had, that you always wanted back, that when you were a teenager, you might not get that one back, but you get somewhere close. You get somewhere close. Again, it supports fat loss and ketosis because, like I said, if you're on an extended fast, you begin to go into ketosis because your body is now burning that weight. For people that suffer with diabetes, it encourages better insulin sensitivity. It improves cardiovascular health. It lowers the blood pressure and decreases blood sugar. It improves triglycerides, which also goes to that. It promotes heart health. It slows aging and enhances longevity. That is something that a lot of people want, They say black don't crack. Black really won't crack. You start that good fasting. You understand me? You see this right here. It's just because I look scruffy right now. But when I shave and I look all nice and clean, your boy look good. Anywho, it increases resistance and to oxidative stress. It improves cell recycling. That goes back to the aging situation. Increases growth regulation. So when you're sleeping, we produce the human growth hormone, and this helps with healing and all that good stuff overnight when we're working out or whatever. This helps our body to regenerate and renew itself. It helps with that. It protects your brain. Again, going back to the mental clarity, all of the things that there's been studies that have shown that the things that we eat can be associated with our mood. Our mood can be associated with the things that we eat. A lot of the toxins that we take in can actually act as adjutants toward us. And so we want to be mindful of that. So when we're fasting, we don't have that stuff in our system. We become nice. We become good to people, all that good stuff, willing to help, willing to do A, B, C, and D that you weren't really willing to do before. Now it's like, it don't matter. Somebody said, like, man, I feel like I'm on a Molly. I hate to say it like that, but they were like, I felt like real cool, man. I felt like I was on a Molly. I was good, man. I was good. And you feel like that. You feel like that when you're fasting, especially for a long period of time. It reduces harmful protein production. It promotes healthy stress response, and it gives you healthy collagen and healthy skin. So it helps with all of that stuff. Some people say that it actually helps with their hair. Again, going back to that cell situation, and it helps with your eyes. It helps with clearer vision and whatnot, depending on how long you fast. So these are all things that it helps with, along with the spiritual advantages that we talked about on last week. So, now that you've gone through those that first week of dealing with it, again, you're fasting, you're spending that time with the Lord, you're spending that time with God. Generally, that first 7 days, that first 7 to 10 days, your body is actually detoxing itself. So that's again why you're feeling the discomforts. That's again why you're feeling almost like it's like your body is fighting itself because it's telling you stop doing this. It's like when a junkie is going cold turkey from something. You are literally going cold turkey from food. Your mind is already conditioned to a point where you need this food, and it is accepted. It's not like when somebody is addicted to drugs or alcoholism and they're like, this is something that's negatively impacting. No, you need food. Let's get that out of the way. You need food. And you're now detoxing yourself. You're breaking that habit, but you're detoxing yourself from all of the free radicals that come along with food, the toxins that are in food that we eat, all that stuff. You're detoxing yourself. The addictions that you have, the sugar, salt, carbs, all that stuff. You're detoxing yourself. So it's causing aggravation in there. After that first 7 to 10 days, now your body begins to heal itself. Your body begins to reconstruct everything, all the cells that were damaged, everything that was messed up internally. It begins to heal itself for that second 7 days, and then that last 7 days while you're fasting, you're really at a place of like, man, clarity and peace. You're cool. You know what I'm saying? Around like that 15th day up until like if you're doing a 21-day fast, you're cool and all that good stuff, or even a 40-day fast. You're like, man. Again, I told you, like, man, somebody said, like, man, I felt like, man, I was just chilling high somewhere, man. I was just like, yeah, this is nice. So you get to that point where it's just like, yeah, okay, yeah. So from through that 21st day, you're just cool. Everything is good. You're spiritually sensitive at this point because you have clarity, because there's no food in the way. There's no agitation of that food in a way. You're not tired, so you're able to get into your word. You're able to get into your word more. You're able to pray with more power and all that good stuff. Just you become locked in and laser focused on the things of the Lord. Your retention goes up. Your mental retention goes up. So you're remembering the scriptures that you always forgot. You remember if you're in school. You remember in the session, the class sessions, and all that stuff. If you're learning something, it's like everything is starting to be like, oh man, I've never been able to do this before. This is like, oh my goodness, this is a miracle. This is a miracle. Oh goody. And so it helps with all of that. And then like when you get to that 21st day, to be quite honest, you get to that 21st day, you can fast for however long you want at that point, and up until the 40th day. I said the longest fast that I've done was 25 days, but it wasn't because I felt like I needed to stop. It was just because I stopped at that day. But you can just keep going. You don't all At this point now, you just have to keep, doing what you've been doing, drinking your water, reading your Bible. And again, I would recommend, this is something that I would recommend, at least a half gallon a day, depending on your size. Somebody that's bigger, a gallon a day or a gallon plus. And you just take in that water, down that water, down that water. Spend time in prayer, study, prayer, study, prayer, study. You've already got the repetition going now. You can just continue to do it. And you don't feel any type of way at that point. You don't feel like, oh my God, I just want to eat something. You don't feel like that around that 14th day. You don't feel like, oh my God, I just want to eat something. I remember my first 21-day fast. One of my friends they were going away. So we did a Bible study. We had our Bible studies at the Salvation Army. This was back at the this was like maybe February or March of 2018. We did our Bible study at the Salvation Army here in Chicago. Then we took them to it's this restaurant in Chicago called Jack Grill or whatever. And so I was just fast. I didn't tell anybody else. I was just fasting. And so we were there, and I was just like, man, I'm not hungry. Yeah, man, I don't want anything. I just take water and stuff like that. Now, it's food all around me. Good jerk food. I like jerk chicken. I like jerk restaurants. I like it. This is a jerk restaurant. I like it. I enjoy jerk restaurant. I enjoy Jamaican food. I do. But I'm sitting in there, I'm good. I'm not like, oh my God, I just want to eat something. Oh. Now, this is like the 15th day of that particular fast. And I'm just like, we all, we having conversation. We having a good time. Excuse me. Sorry. I had to drink that water, something in my throat. So we having a conversation, we having a good time, and everything was all good. Now, closing down, let's talk about the breaking of the fast. Also, one more thing. Going back to what you should do while you're fasting. You don't need to do any type of colonics. You don't have to do any type of colon cleansers or any type of thing like that, because your body is at this point, your body is doing that during that first 7 days. It's literally cleansing your colon of everything. So generally, the first time you poop, either after the fast or maybe around the 8th, 9th, or 10th day, it might be a little watery, because all that stuff has been just dissolved by the acids, and it's coming out. It's coming out. So you don't need to do any of that. If you do that, you could end up messing yourself up. And I don't want you to go through that experience. I've heard a story where somebody did that, and what ended up happening, they didn't have anything in their stomach. They were doing an extended fast. And what happened was their stomach expanded like it was supposed to do, but then when it contracted, there was no food in there. So their intestine turned. And it caused an issue or whatnot. And so, you don't need to do any type of colon cleanser at all. No. So again, going back to breaking the fast. Breaking the fast, depending on how long you fast, you need to break that fast with extreme care. If you do a 1 to 3 day fast, you don't really need to do much after that, because it's only a couple of days. But if you do a 7-day fast or more, you have to break that fast with extreme care. A lot of people, they would start with a liquid type of diet, so they would either juice or drink smoothies to begin to reactivate their digestive system, because their digestive system was healing, and then the digestive system stops. It stops producing stuff because now you don't have those bacteria and those gastric acids produced in the stomach, so there's not a lot to break anything down. So you want to eat something that is easily absorbable to the stomach lining. So, a warm soup dish. And when I say a soup dish, I mean veggie soup. I don't mean stuff with meat in it. I don't mean stuff with with potatoes in it or carbs in it, your body can't handle that type of stuff yet. Your body cannot handle that type of stuff yet. If you're doing a 7-day fast or more, your body can't handle that type of stuff yet. Your body can't handle that type of stuff yet. Just wanted to be clear. So if you're doing a 7-day fast or more, you have to really look at it. So like a warm vegetable soup. And generally, like the first time I eat, if I make a vegetable soup, I don't even eat the vegetables. I just drink the broth once it's done cooking. And I would just have that for the first meal. I would also get some natural orange juice and like pour half, because again it's sugar. I haven't taken in anything for 7, 10, 14, 21 days. So I would put the what is it, the apple juice, not orange juice, apple juice into the cup, only fill it halfway and then fill the other half with water to dilute it, so it won't be that the sugar content won't be as high. So I would have those for maybe a meal or two or whatever. Then I would put some vegetables that's in the soup into the bowl that I'm eating for the next meal, and so forth. Sometimes I also break the fast with something else that's easily absorbable, like some grapes or some watermelon or apple, cut up apple. You can do it with a cantaloupe, honeydew melon, something that is easily absorbable. Though you don't want to do anything that is too aggressive, because what could end up happening is you can end up in a hospital or worse. And so you want to break the fast with wisdom. I talked about on last week how when the devil came to Jesus after that 40-day fast, he told him to command the stone to become bread. That bread could, if not harm you, kill you. If not just simply harm you and cause you to be down for a few days, it could potentially kill you because your stomach is not ready to handle that. That bread is just paste, it's just putty. And that's just sitting on your stomach with no enzymes, no gastric acid, it's no nothing that could break it down in the proper way. Yeah, that's dangerous. So you want to break the fast with wisdom. Again, this book right here is a really good book. I want you to get that book. I want you to look at that book. You get that book, all that good stuff. Again, like I said, this was not going to be a Bible study video. This was going to be a video where I more so elaborated on the natural aspect of fasting, and so forth. So you do that. You eat like that for like maybe 3-4 days, depending on how long you fast. If you fast for a longer period of time, you fast for 7 to 10 days, you do that for about 3-4 days. You fast for 14, 21 days, you do that for about 5 days. You fast for 30, 40 days, you do that for about a week and a half. And just to make sure your body's digestive system is back on track. I'm about done, but just a little fun note. The first time I did a 21-day fast, I remember after I was done fasting, I had taken my niece, I think the following week, it was like I ended my fast on that Sunday. That following Saturday, I took my niece to I think it was Legoland or something like that in Chicago, in the Chicagoland area. And, I was like, well, we can have a little pizza, so we got a couple of slices of pizza. I was fine that day. I was fine. That following Monday, I knew I was going to have friends over. We were watching the NCAA Final Four or whatever. So we watched it or whatever and had pizza then. That was a horrible decision. My body wasn't ready yet. And my body didn't like it. That's all I'm going to say. So to avoid situations, I'm telling you all these things to let you know that man, you have to do these things with care. You have to do these things with wisdom. Again, like I said, you do something, you start your fast, you want to make sure your body is in good shape. You want to make sure your mind is in good shape. And sometimes, a lot of times, depending on the shape of your mind, the fasting can help you. But if you're going through like some type of trauma, like some real trauma, man, maybe right then is not necessarily the time for fasting. It could be done later. But yeah, man, fasting is an enjoyable experience. it is a blessed experience. Also, last thing, you can work and still fast. So like if you're doing like physical activity and stuff like that, you can work and still fast. You have to monitor yourself, but you can work and still fast. Now if you're fasting for 30 days or longer, I would probably suggest probably taking that last week or so off, but you can work and still fast. So yeah, that's all I got. I hope you guys have enjoyed this wonderful, wonderful day. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video and got something out of it. I pray you guys have a blessed week, blessed weekend, and all of that good stuff. I will see you guys on the next one. Peace.